welcome to another episode of Inquiring Minds. I'm Steve Harper, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Donna Carlin. How are you doing, Donna?
I'm great. I'm looking forward to our conversation. I know I always say that, but I really do look forward to these weekly chats and insights that pop up for me, and I hope the same for those who are listening to us. So
Yeah,
it's good to be here. Yeah.
me too. I always look forward to this. But before we dive in, I gotta say, those are some really awesome glasses. These are new, right?
Yeah, my stained glass glasses. It's so funny, I go to this online store. It's called Vooglam, and
Vooglam.
Vooglam, Vooglam, and they have the coolest glasses. They have some off the wall ones too. And if these are not off the wall, so you can imagine what off the wall ones are. But you know what? I figured I have to wear glasses. I might as well enjoy wearing them. And I have a variety of them, and the price points are phenomenal. So this is not really a plug, but it's a plug for Zooglam. What could I tell you?
I love it. So they're not an official sponsor yet, but because you always wear a new set of glasses every week, they need to be. So I mean, we're gonna have to reach out to them because I love every week. It's always a different pair of glasses, and it's always really fun to see what you're going to be wearing. So anyway, I'm going to check out Vooglam. I just popped up their website. It's just vooglam.com. So I'm gonna see about that because I'm gonna need some glasses, and I'm gonna need some ones that are super stylish and conversation starters. And yours are
There you
definitely
go.
that. So
Yeah.
what are we talking about today?
So this is a statement, not a question.
Oh, good.
Okay.
This is good.
Great things never come from comfort zones.
Oh. Yeah, I think that is absolutely accurate. I would agree. Um, that what inspired this topic? I'm curious.
I'm watching people more and more steer towards what they're comfortable with rather than what they have to do. And when they steer to what they're comfortable with, there's very little growth. Growth does not come from your comfort zone. You might achieve mastery when you're in your comfort zone because you tweak and you change a little bit and you get more masterful at doing something,
Yeah,
but that's not where the great things come from. The great things happen when you dive into something new and you are blown away by the result. However, you have to get out of your comfort zone to dive into something new and to change and to experience that which you've never experienced before. And I really think, as we're now into the new year, and I know a lot of people had set intentions, which is what I do. I don't do goal setting; never works anyway for me. Um, they set their yearly desired end result, all of what they try to craft,
sure.
and then they steer away because it's uncomfortable. You know, I look at people when they are in a place of surprise. Have you ever experienced that? A client of yours or somebody in the family or a friend experienced something they never experienced before, and you see this look of wonder on their face,
Mm-hmm.
that incredible surprise that, oh my goodness, why didn't I try this years ago? Or, oh my goodness, I never thought that I would love this so much.
Yeah.
And then they so immerse themselves in it. The longer you try to stay in your comfort zone, the less that's going to happen. Number one. Number two, the older you get, the more subconsciously you stay in your comfort zone. And that comfort zone even shrinks. So
Yeah.
keep that in mind as well. Um, that's why I brought it up, because I think it would be great for people to take a moment, press the pause button, and ask themselves, how comfortable am I? And are things routine now?
Yeah.
And what could happen that would be outstanding, really, really great, if I allowed myself to get out of that comfort zone?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's a really good question to ponder. So, highly encourage everybody to push pause now and actually really think about that. As
I know that you've shared with me, that sometimes you have a hard time letting go because you want things to go a certain way,
mm-hmm.
and that's also the fear of what will happen if I'm not in control of this when I run my business. And there's a lot of people who are reliant on me, and I want to make sure that they have the greatest experience or the greatest success possible. It's a little bit harder sometimes to get out of your comfort zone because when you go into the unknown, it has a ripple effect, Mr.
Yeah.
Ripple, on so many people.
Yeah.
The ripple effect is huge. So if I would, put it over to you, how might you get out of your comfort zone in a way that doesn't cause harm to anyone, but can really allow something great to happen?
Well, I think as with a lot of our conversations, it comes in asking that question, right? What can I be doing differently? And how committed am I to moving a certain direction despite the risk that it might impact or affect someone else? And the fear that holds you back is the automatic, default worry of if failure, right? But
Right.
that's where everybody tends to lean towards is the downside of a big decision or a big strategy shift, et cetera. And sometimes you have to say, well, what would this look like if it was successful and you moved forward and were able to take this gigantic leap? What does that mean to other people, right? Does that mean that you might be putting more on
Yeah.
their plate, but you give them more responsibility, or you're showing them that you trust their judgment in order to make decisions without you? It might mean that you're taking a big leap forward because you see a future potential in a better idea or a better strategy, and that has a positive impact on their career path and their longevity with your organization. There's different ways to look at it, but I think, thanks to you, not automatically defaulting to all the things that could go wrong first. It's important to evaluate those things, but all the things that could go right because you make it, I think that's really critical. And I'm reminded, it's interesting that we're talking about this topic because I just watched an interview maybe a few months back, but it was as we go through the award season for some of the television and movies that have come out. You've got the People's Choice Awards and the Emmys, and you've got the Oscars. And one of the people that has recently bubbled up on a lot of the different interview shows is Adam Sandler, the comedian Adam Sandler. And he has actually shifted his career in a direction that's taking many of his projects in a lot more serious direction. So a lot of people know him for the Benchwarmers and Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison. And he was interviewed, I think, on CBS 60 Minutes, not 60 Minutes, CBS This Morning. And they were asking him about why he made that sudden shift. And he said, there's only... I could make a really good paycheck for every, another stupid comedy or a rom-com. I could go that route for the rest of my career, and I've been paid a lot of money to do it. And there's offers for us to do those things all the time. But for me to go that direction and continue to go that direction was largely unfulfilling. So I had to ask myself what was next. And what he was talking about was looking towards roles that nobody would ever consider him for. And so one of the things that he did was to try and control his destiny. He went and, his production company actually opted to buy several of these, particular more serious stories so that he could make sure that when it came to who was going to be cast, he would be the guy, right? And so then he kind of comes across and says, and of course I had no idea what I'm doing because I've had, off-color jokes and this slapstick comedy as my mainstay. That was my default. To move into a more serious, more, direct, more adult role tone in terms of these films was a huge push. And at the end of the day, he believed in himself in a way that nobody else could, which is why he went and opted to get these, these rights to make these films, and do some of the career shift strategy that he's done. And he said, at the end of the day, did I know it would work? No. Did I have a confidence level that I could deliver at least my part in whatever the film might be, and at least show up and do my level-headed best? I knew I could do that because I've been a professional my entire career, right? So it was just a shift in focus. But I thought, it was a huge risk, a big roll of the dice for him to take a run at, more serious films like Uncut Gems. He's got a basketball movie. The name escapes me, but it's on Netflix. It's a really well done. But he's, they did through this interview that, these films that he's moving towards that are more serious, it's usually about someone that's kind of down and out on their luck, that they've, life has been challenging, or they're a victim of their own circumstances and they're up against it in some capacity. And he said, I always like playing the underdog because the underdogs are more interesting for us. Sometimes they win. A lot of times they don't, but most of the time they don't win because it's of their own doing. Right. And he said, and I viewed myself moving into these films as very much that underdog. So it really helped him guide and direct his performance by what he was going through in his own personal confidence level. And so I think, as it relates to this, I think it's really important for us to, acknowledge those, it is scary to do things differently, to, try something new or go against the grain of what we've always done. But like you said, that's where the growth is. And now he has, I think in this one interview that I saw, he has as equal a number, if not more, serious films being pitched to him about doing as opposed to, the next, comedy bit. And they asked if he would ever go back to the other side, and he said he might at some point, but this was far more interesting because it was far more challenging for him to take on. And so I think that there is, when you experience the growth and you see, oh my gosh, I pushed through and I'm able to come out on the other side. Now it's kind of like, okay, what's next? What's my next challenge? What's my next big thing that I need to go out and accomplish? And I just think there's some real inspiration that we can all take away from that.
Definitely. And especially the way you put that, how he held himself in the interview and what he shared. Because a lot of people are going to listen to our podcast or our YouTube and say, okay, so for me to get out of my comfort zone, this is what I'm going to do. And they're going to plan every step of the way of what they're going to do in a way that they're comfortable with. Think about it. Which might have a different outcome, but how they got there is exactly the same as how they are right now. It's not getting out of the comfort zone. It's not trying anything, that you're new at. And we had that discussion. I can't remember if it was one of our shows or one of the Ripples, where we asked people, what do they have to do in order to be in a different place? Mm-hmm. It might have been one of the one-on-ones, in the round table session in one of the Ripples. It was just really a fascinating conversation because, I look at people and they go, I know I should be doing this. However, I don't know what's going to happen if I do that. So I'm just staying put where I am right now.
Yeah.
And then they wonder, why aren't they growing? Why aren't they more successful? Why are they struggling in their businesses? So just keep in mind that when you do create something that's going to bring greatness to you, being out of your comfort zone also means how you got there is totally uncomfortable.
Well, and like you said, the challenge with that is if you are risk averse and you're even still willing to go down this road where you're really stretching yourself from in the uncomfortable zone, right? But you still have to plan it exactly like you would on the, when you're playing it safe. And you're not making the progress that you need to, because really for you to have the type of growth and the literal experience you need in order to see that growth means that you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that means that you can't go about it the same way that you've done everything else, because you kind of rode the rail and you were safe the whole time. Because you knew what that was. You knew what that outcome was. Over here, when you go into the uncomfortable lane, you don't really know what the outcome is. You have an understanding and a guide of where you'd like to go and what you think you can accomplish, but you don't know all of the particulars. And that's where I always challenge my coaching clients. That's where the magic is. When you have those little victories, the end goal is one thing, right? But it's the small milestones and the victories that you experience along the way where you actually are proving to yourself, look what I've accomplished. Look what I've done. Look where I started. Look where I'm at. How much further I have to go is still there. However, you celebrate those things as you're going, and you think about like just the sense of accomplishment that you actually feel and experience. That is the fuel which keeps you moving forward in towards that, that ultimate goal. And does it ever get easier? No, but whatever the next big thing is, you can look back at this prior experience and say, look, I didn't know what I was doing when I did that, and I made it work. So now I can tackle this next challenge and have confidence in myself that I may not know everything I need to know, but I'll figure it out.
Yep. So I had an idea. Looking at what we're discussing here, most organizations have performance appraisals
Yeah.
and goal setting for the year. Did they meet or exceed or not meet, that kind of criteria? How many organizations, I'm throwing it out there because I'd love to hear the answer if it's one of yours, have stretch goals
Yeah.
specifically meant to help people stretch outside their comfort zone with the support that they need in order to, steer into a scary
Yep.
place? Because I don't see that happening. I don't see people being given stretch goals. I see people being given stretch goals for the organization. So, to have certain things implemented by the end of the year, that would mean a ton of work, a ton of extra overtime, all of that. But it's not a stretch goal for the person doing it.
Yep.
And I think if you are a great manager, the best thing that you could do for your people is to help them, create stretch goals, to dip their toes into something that they never tried before, and to see how excited they might become, because that's going to bring a heck of a lot of energy to the organization. And the same as, for individuals. If you want to
I
try
think that's a
something,
great idea.
yeah, you want to try something that is scary, but, won't kill 5 other people, go for it. Just go for it. What is the worst thing that could happen? Because greatness only happens when you try. You don't try, you don't experience it.
Yeah. Yeah. My only counter to that from a leadership perspective is, because I've seen this in corporate America where the stretch goal ends up becoming the expectation, right? And the stretch is the component there. And I think a lot of leaders lose that perspective. They automatically assume, well, that's what you are going to do. Even though we're calling it a stretch goal, then, this is what you're at X, I need you at Y. And they utilize that a lot of times as a nudge to do your extra 5%, 10%, or 20%, or whatever it is. And I've seen it in certain circumstances where, you have your, look at a sales game, for example, right? You've got your sales quota for the year, and then the stretch goal is like X amount percentage above it. And now what ends up seeing, or at least I've seen with a lot of organizations, is now your quota, well, that's a foregone conclusion. You have to get it. But if you're not into the stretch and you're not meeting your stretch goal, you're somehow an underperformer. And I see, leaders lose that perspective and understanding.
Yeah.
It really, the stretch doesn't necessarily have to always pertain to the financial aspects or delivery on a project. There's certain, skill sets and abilities that can be tied into, doing things a different way. And I always like to sort of remind leaders that it's a little bit of a dangerous factor when you come back and you have a high performer that actually achieves it, and then you come back next year and you evaluate. Well, you have that expectation that they're doing 100 plus, 100% plus the next 100, or 20% for the following year. And you look at we used to, one of my first entrepreneurial ventures was we were a Xerox agent, and we were representing that product, for all of our market. And no matter what they would give you as the budget, the budget just wasn't, that was a moving target, because they always had this expectation that you always needed to exceed that, right? And if you weren't exceeding it, then you were somehow a failure. And it always drove me nuts, because, it sort of defeats the purpose of why you set the performance level in the first place, right? So I remind people about that, because I think a lot of times the natural tendency for leadership is to, look at how can I get, these people to produce more, do more, earn more, because that's so much better for the organization. But at the end of the day, I like to look at stretch goals by, Can we adapt a new skill set? Can we, improve in certain personal or professional areas? What can I do as a leader to help them get where they want to go? And figure those things out and figure out how to push them with the right amount of encouragement to experience the opportunities to move into that, uncomfortable lane and see the wins along the way. If it's just a defining sales quota or performance number or whatever it might be, it loses its, in a lot of respects, it loses its luster.
For sure.
Well, this has been a really interesting conversation. I think it's like you said, it's not so much a question, but more of a statement about the aspects of where you're going to push yourself. But I think figuring out how to not that we would encourage you to stay in a state of uncomfortableness, but uncomfortableness is where the growth is occurring, right? So what areas of your life, personally and professionally, could you venture into this and push yourself to be better as you, like you said, we're in a new year. This is the perfect opportunity to say, where do I really want to go? What do I want to accomplish? What do I want to learn and experience? And how can I push myself to, venture into parts unknown and become better for it?
Yeah, exactly. I really look forward to hearing what people do with this.
Yeah, absolutely. So how can people get active in this conversation with us and share their feedback and thoughts on this particular topic or any other topics they might like us to cover in an upcoming episode?
So join our Facebook group, Inquiring Minds with Donna Carlin and Steve Harper, and let us know about you, what this did for you, how you used it, what your dinner table conversation was around it. It'd be really cool. Or you could go to our website. Steve is the king of the Ripple at ripplecentral.com. I'm at Donna Carlin with a K.com. And still the best way to get us and to comment and create conversation is on our Facebook group.
Love it. Well, fantastic. Well, we look forward to another episode very soon with another great topic, great conversation. Until then, Donna, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.
You as well.
All right. Take care.